He was the man who could move the entire US bond market with a single phone call, the financial wizard who made more than $1 billion in just 4 years. When that kind of money was unthinkable. From a modest office in Los Angeles, Michael Milken rewired Wall Street itself, fueling the corporate boom of the 1980s and turning junk bonds into a trillion-dollar force that reshaped America. They called him the Junk Bond King. His rise was meteoric, his influence unmatched, until the fall.
He crashed really hard. I mean, he was truly, truly disgraced. There aren't a lot of powerful Wall Street figures who end up going to prison.
Was he the genius who revolutionized finance or the dealmaker who broke the system? And how did a disgraced Wall Street legend rebuild his life to become one of America's most respected philanthropists today? This is the story of Michael Milken. Michael Robert Milken wasn't born into money, nobility, or Wall Street privilege. He came from a modest Jewish family in Encino, California, a post-war suburb built on middle-class optimism. His father worked as an accountant, his mother was a homemaker. The United States he grew up in was booming, factories thrived, suburbs expanded, and the stock market symbolized the American dream. But young Michael didn't dream of being a movie star or a politician. He wanted to understand how money itself moved, how invisible decisions in New York could shape entire cities on the other side of the country. At Birmingham High School, he was already a standout straight-A student, cheerleader captain, and oddly intense for his age. While classmates traded gossip about cars and parties, Milken talked about economics, interest rates, and human behavior. At UC Berkeley, that obsession found direction, one afternoon, buried in research. He came across a paper by economist W. Braddock Hickman, an obscure study with a heretical conclusion that junk bonds, the low-rated, risky debt Wall Street dismissed, actually produced higher long-term returns than their safe, blue-chip cousins. To most investors, junk meant danger. To Milken, it meant opportunity, a hidden system of value waiting to be unlocked. He saw what others ignored: thousands of small, innovative companies starved of credit because they lacked perfect credit ratings. If he could find a way to fund them, he could democratize capital itself and make a fortune doing it. After earning his MBA at Wharton, Milken joined a modest investment house called Drexel Harriman Ripley. The firm wasn't glamorous, but it gave him freedom, and that's all he needed. He set out to build a market for these neglected bonds, betting that risk could be quantified, priced, and ultimately conquered. By the early 1970s, Drexel Burnham Lambert, as it was soon renamed, became his laboratory, and Milken, its quiet alchemist. He took the so-called fallen angels of corporate America and turned them into gold, rewriting the rules of modern finance in the process. By his early 30s, the boy from Encino was earning millions and reshaping the flow of capital across the United States. What began as a college curiosity had become a revolution, and before long, that revolution would make him the most powerful financier on Wall Street. Michael Milken had started with a question: how could capital reach the people and ideas that traditional finance ignored? By the late 1970s, he had his answer. What began as a quiet theory from a Berkeley classroom had grown into a revolution inside one of Wall Street's least glamorous firms. From an office far from Manhattan's marble towers, Milken turned Drexel Burnham Lambert into something new, a laboratory for high-yield finance. He was no longer the curious student. He was the architect of an entirely new market. And his stage wasn't Wall Street, it was Los Angeles, the city of reinvention. At the center of his empire was a radical idea that money shouldn't just serve the already rich. High-yield bonds, he argued, could unlock opportunity for everyone else: ambitious entrepreneurs, struggling companies, even industries on the brink. Where others saw junk, Milken saw lifeblood for innovation. To many, it sounded reckless, a dangerous game of leverage. But to Milken, it was liberation. Under his direction, Drexel became the unseen engine behind the corporate boom of the 1980s. His network financed companies like MGM, Texaco, and CNN, fueling an era of rapid mergers and takeovers. By 1986, Milken's division was generating more than half of Drexel's profits, and his own earnings topped $500 million more than any CEO in America. The media crowned him the most powerful man on Wall Street. But his clients weren't just corporations. They were the new titans of aggression: Carl Icahn, T. Boone Pickens, Henry Kravis the corporate raiders who used Milken's junk bonds as financial weaponry. Each takeover created both legends and casualties, revitalized firms on one side, ruined pensions and pink slips on the other. But whether you saw him as a savior or a destroyer, one truth was undeniable: Milken sat at the center of it all. By 1983, his operation had moved into Century City, where insiders called it the money factory. Phones never stopped ringing, deals closed in minutes, and billions moved across the country each day. Drexel's profits exploded by 2,000% in less than a decade. The firm's traders celebrated with Ferraris, mansions, and private jets, but Milken himself remained strangely austere, driving a beat-up station wagon and eating vegetarian meals. His influence reached far beyond finance. The same bonds that built fortunes were also financing the early growth of cable TV, regional airlines, and biotech entire industries that traditional banks wouldn't touch. What J.P. Morgan had once done for railroads, Milken was now doing for modern America. But as his empire grew, so did the unease around it. Behind the glossy magazine covers and billion-dollar headlines, regulators were beginning to ask questions about insider deals, secret partnerships, and a system that seemed to reward chaos as much as creation. The revolution that had once promised to democratize capitalism was about to face its reckoning. By the mid-1980s, Michael Milken's reach extended far beyond Wall Street. His deals didn't just fund companies, they created industries. With Drexel Burnham Lambert as his fortress, Milken controlled the flow of corporate credit across America, deciding which firms lived, merged, or vanished. Insiders called him the man who made millionaires and sometimes the man who unmade them. His junk bond empire financed the growth of cable television, regional airlines, and even early cellular networks. Milken's influence could be felt in every corner of the economy, from Hollywood studios to oil conglomerates. He helped finance Ted Turner's media empire, Carl Icahn's takeovers, and KKR's leveraged buyouts. Each deal multiplied his power, and each one added another line to the list of enemies waiting for him to fall. Yet Milken wasn't just a trader. He became a symbol of the 1980s, a decade obsessed with ambition, money, and reinvention. Politicians sought his advice, universities asked for his donations, and think tanks began quoting his ideas on capital efficiency. In 1982, he and his brother Lowell launched the Milken Family Foundation, framing philanthropy as an extension of enterprise funding education reform, medical research, and the arts. To his supporters, he was proof that capitalism could do good. But beneath the glowing headlines, something darker brewed. Drexel's operations had grown so large, so lucrative, that the line between genius and manipulation began to blur. In 1986, the House of Cards started to shake when an ambitious arbitrageur named Ivan Boesky was caught in an insider trading probe and pointed the finger at Milken. Federal prosecutors alleged that Milken's team had manipulated stock prices, hidden illegal profits through shell accounts, and engaged in stock parking, buying shares secretly to inflate demand. The Securities and Exchange Commission launched one of the largest investigations in its history. In 1989, Milken was indicted on 98 criminal counts, including securities fraud, mail fraud, and racketeering. The headlines were merciless. The Wall Street Journal called it the fall of the junk bond king. Protesters gathered outside Drexel's offices, waving signs that read, "Greed isn't good," under crushing pressure. Drexel Burnham collapsed into bankruptcy in 1990, marking one of the most spectacular downfalls in corporate history. In April 1990, Milken pleaded guilty to 6 lesser charges, avoiding a full trial, but accepting a 10-year prison sentence and a $600 million fine. He served just 22 months, thanks to good behavior and cooperation with investigators. But when he walked out of prison in 1993, the world had changed, and so had he. Diagnosed with advanced prostate cancer, Milken redirected his life toward philanthropy. What began as reputation repair soon grew into something much larger: the creation of one of the most powerful private research networks in global medicine. By the early 2000s, the name Milken was back in elite circles, not as a financier, but as a philanthropic heavyweight. His Milken Institute, founded in 1991, evolved into a global economic forum attracting presidents, CEOs, and Nobel laureates. His prostate cancer foundation became the largest of its kind, partnering with the MLB's Home Run Challenge and funding hundreds of trials. Still, controversy never fully left him. Critics argued that his foundations doubled as image laundering, a way to rebrand a financial felon as a public intellectual. Supporters countered that few individuals had done more to fund medical breakthroughs or education reform. Then, in February 2020, after 3 decades of debate, President Donald Trump granted Milken a full pardon, citing his transformative philanthropic impact. For some, justice was delayed. For others, it was proof that power and redemption still play by the same rules. And as the curtain rose again, Milken stepped back into the spotlight, this time as an elder statesman of capitalism, reshaping not just markets, but memory itself. By 2025, Michael Milken stands as one of the most paradoxical figures in American finance, a man once branded a criminal, now courted by presidents, CEOs, and world leaders, at 79 years old. He's no longer the master of the trading floor, but the architect of a vast intellectual and philanthropic empire. From his home in Los Angeles, Milken lives quietly with his wife, Lori Ann Hackle, his partner since 1968, maintaining the vegetarian lifestyle he adopted decades ago. His estimated $6.5 billion fortune now flows through a network of foundations and endowments rather than trading desks. His brother Lowell Milken remains a key ally, overseeing education initiatives through the Milken Family Foundation, one of the largest private funders of K-12 programs in the U.S. His transformation after prison wasn't just personal, it was strategic. The Prostate Cancer Foundation, founded after his diagnosis in 1993, has raised over $1 billion for medical research and is credited with accelerating treatments that have saved countless lives. His other creation, Faster Cures, reshaped how philanthropy collaborates with science, linking biotech innovators, investors, and policymakers in ways that mirror his old bond networks. At the same time, the Milken Institute evolved into a modern-day Davos, a policy and finance summit drawing figures like Bill Gates, Janet Yellen, and IMF Managing Director Kristalina Georgieva through its global conference and regional summits. The Institute influences conversations on everything from climate finance to AI governance. To some, it's a powerful platform for good. To others, it's a soft power machine that lets billionaires rewrite their legacies. In 2025, Milken unveiled his most ambitious project yet, the Milken Center for Advancing the American Dream, a $500 million museum complex opening near the White House, funded with donations from financiers like Ken Griffin and David Rubenstein. The center celebrates entrepreneurship, free enterprise, and the idea that anyone can rise, a fitting monument from a man who once embodied both the promise and peril of that dream. Critics call it a shrine to capitalism. Admirers call it a testament to second chances. But even his detractors admit that few figures have left a footprint this deep across business, philanthropy, and public life. The paradox of Milken's legacy is that both sides of his story remain true. The same instincts that once bent Wall Street to his will, his obsession with efficiency, his appetite for risk, his belief in data over dogma, are the same ones that now drive his medical and educational philanthropy. Decades after his fall from grace, Michael Milken has redefined what it means to rebuild a reputation. Yet beneath the headlines and the handshakes, one question lingers: did he redeem capitalism or simply rebrand it? For more than half a century, Michael Milken's story has mirrored the evolution of American capitalism itself: brilliant, ruthless, adaptable, and impossible to pin down. From the chaos of the 1980s trading pits to the polished halls of global conferences, his name has moved from scandal to symbolism, a reminder that in finance, power never truly disappears. It just reinvents itself. He built empires not from steel or oil, but from debt and belief, from the conviction that risk, if properly engineered, could change the world. That conviction made him billions, brought him to the edge of ruin, and later helped fund breakthroughs in medicine that have saved countless lives. Today, his foundations touch everything from education to cancer research to economic policy. But his story also raises uneasy questions. If the system can forgive and even celebrate the man once blamed for fueling corporate greed, what does that say about the system itself? Are we witnessing redemption or proof that influence can outlast justice? Maybe the truth lies somewhere in between. Milken didn't just survive his fall, he institutionalized it, turning his scandal into a masterclass in reinvention, in that sense. His life isn't just a comeback story, it's a blueprint for how modern power works. So the next time you hear a billionaire speak about giving back, ask yourself, is it atonement or continuation? Because the story of Michael Milken isn't just about one man, it's about the system that made him, broke him, and welcomed him back. What do you think, was Milken a visionary who expanded opportunity, or a financier who rewrote the rules in his own favor? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.